All right, talking to business fans, it's finally here. It's the last of the YouTube, Facebook shows, and we bring you none other than OVW head official, AJ Lucio. AJ, how's it going tonight?
Going pretty good, man. How are
Good. Doing good, man. Actually, really excited about this show. The fan interaction's been awesome, but I think what's even more awesome as we go into it is the story. So I kind of want to start at the beginning. Growing up in Texas, because I know from like age 6 to 14, I grew up in El Paso myself. So where did you grow up in Texas?
I grew up in McAllen in the Rio Grande Valley. It's about 4.5 hours south of San Antonio.
Okay.
Moved to San Antonio August 2005 and just never really went back home since.
Oh, wow. And growing up in Texas is a really unique thing. And God, it's kind of hard to explain. You grow up and there's so many smaller promotions around the area. I knew I grew up with the Guerreros, obviously, and San Antonio, you obviously was around world class.
Mm-hmm.
So a great time to grow up. So as we're growing up in Texas, when does wrestling become? When do you become a fan?
Oh man, I was a fan probably about 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
My mother and father, growing up with them, my mom did what she could to take care of me, but she didn't really have anything that I was really interested in. But my father was really into wrestling. That was the only thing that we really bonded on.
Okay.
I remember being 3 or 4 years old, sitting on the couch with him, didn't really understand what was going on, just these big, huge guys fighting and beating each other up. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Got
So,
you.
I remember seeing like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage. I mean, all those guys on screen. How could you not become a fan of that?
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. And like I said, for me being in, like I said, in the El Paso area, it was Terry Gordy and the Freebirds, and then the first time I saw Stan Hansen. And I was scared, but it was the scaredness that actually drew me in. It was like these crazy guys that you were petrified of, but you couldn't miss a moment. Because they were so big and just such characters. So, okay, we're growing up in Texas, and, again, there's always a moment when you have to say, okay, there's a moment where you go, this is going to be what I'm going to do in the future. And for you, I hear there's this, God, what's the best way of saying, infamous OVW outside the line Yahoo thing that you got to tell the story. How did this draw you into wanting to be in the business?
I pretty much wanted to be in the business when I saw Shawn Michaels win that match at WrestleMania 12. And
Okay.
it just shows like the boyhood dream
Comes along. Amazing. If you don't know it, fans, again, that's against Bret Hart. 60-minute match, actually with 64 minutes and 37 seconds, because you have the extension with Roddy.
Yep.
But go ahead.
I was watching that WrestleMania 12, and it was like, holy crap, that's awesome. Shawn had a dream. He went out to chase it. He made it happen. There he is holding the WWF, at the time, the WWF Heavyweight Championship. I kind of sensed at that point, I knew maybe this is what I want to do, but I don't even remember how old I was at the time.
Okay.
It took a while. The day that I discovered that infamous Yahoo article, I was at work. I was just coming out of a really rough time in my life, and we weren't even really supposed to be browsing the internet on the computers, but I wasn't really good with rules anyway.
Okay.
I found this, it's a few days before WrestleMania 27. I find this thing, before John Cena and Brock Lesnar were stars, they trained at the Harvard of Pro Wrestling, and I'm like, what's this all about? So I clicked it, and the first line was, Rip Rogers just might be a genius, just asking. And like, okay, well, who is this guy? I read the article maybe 3 or 4 times, like the first time that I read it, and I was like, I'm going to train here one day. It was a few days before WrestleMania 27, and then I got here to Louisville November 2013. Obviously, there were a lot of speed bumps in the road.
Yeah, and actually, that was one of the things, the next thing I was going to bring up, because you didn't go directly to Louisville. Actually, you took a little side trip down to Florida, and a famous company. Now, at the time, it wasn't so famous. You went down there to work for FCW, correct?
Yeah, I had a few friends in the business. It kind of came down to 2 things. They were saying if you want the best training possible, go to OVW. But if your job is to work for the WWE, you need to go to FCW. So,
And for fans who don't know, FCW eventually became NXT. FCW was actually the beginning of NXT.
exactly.
So we head down to Florida.
I left Texas to go to Florida. I left on May 1st, 2013. The hardest thing I've ever done. Really wasn't that hard for me to leave like the Rio Grande Valley and McAllen, but leaving San Antonio was extremely difficult. I was leaving all my friends. I was leaving a 35-year-old bartender that I was seeing at the time. Like,
Okay.
I left everything.
Okay.
I think about it every now and then. I had some fun. But I go down to Tampa and I get settled in. I get my apartment. I get a job. I get pretty much settled, get everything taken care of, and finally I start making trips out to where the FCW building was, and every time I go it's locked. I started Googling, I couldn't really find anything. I kept seeing NXT pop up, but I didn't really make the connection. Then I finally got a hold of one of my friends, and he was like, FCW's closed. And I was like, well, why didn't you tell me this before I moved?
Oh my gosh.
So, all that time and money going from there to Tampa, and then it was pretty much for nothing. And I was stuck there for about 6 months.
Okay.
I really liked having the beach 30 minutes away.
Yeah, beautiful area.
Yeah, Clearwater Beach. It's incredible. But really, Florida just wasn't a good fit for me otherwise.
Well, I mean, it takes a lot. You go down there, and obviously FCW's closed. It's now become NXT. But then to have the courage to go, okay, I'm not going to stop at this point. And then you head to Louisville, Kentucky, which is so opposite of Florida, let's be honest.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a whole other world.
Yeah,
And that had to take a lot of guts.
it did, but at that point it was like I'd already given up so much to try to break into the business. Why would I want to go back home when I hadn't even set foot in the ring yet? I did get a lot of weird stares when I would tell my friends back in Tampa, like, well, I'm moving. They'd ask, where are you going to go? I'm like, I'm going to Louisville. At the time, I didn't know it was Louisville. It's like, I'm going to Louisville. And they just look at me weird. Kentucky? I'm like, yeah. Like I said, I had a really rough time living in Tampa. I was homesick a lot, and I was just involved with a girl that was nothing but trouble. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
No. I think we've all gone through one of those type of things.
I've gone through
so.
more than my fair share, actually.
There you go,
That's
there you go.
all I seem to wind up with. Except for the one that I'm with right now. I love you, and I hope you're watching this podcast, or the taping.
I'm sure she will. She actually follows the show, so.
Awesome. But I had all that going on, and then after everything that she put me through, I was in pretty rough shape towards the end of my 6 months in Tampa. Well, I started working out again like crazy, and I was like, no, I'm going to make this work. And it's like, well, where do I go from here? I had a friend recommend, it was called DWI, but I can't remember what it stood for, but it was in Riverview, Florida.
Okay.
And I was this close to training over there, but it was like, well, I gave up, after everything I've done just to break into the business, I don't want to be training under anyone less than the best. So I wanted the best training possible. I got back on the OVW website, and I was lucky enough to find Matt Capitelli's phone number.
There you go.
Even to this day, I still tell him that phone call saved my life, because, like I said, I was in a rough phase. I was picking up some old self-destructive habits, if you will.
No, understood completely.
Yeah, but it was like a Sunday afternoon, and I called him, and poor guy, I think I told him like my whole life story, kind of like what I'm telling y'all right here, right now. But Matt was beyond understanding. He reassured me, like, look, man, we all make mistakes. Like, you have nothing to worry about. If you come up here, we'll take care of you, we'll train you. And as soon as I got off the phone with him, it was like, bingo. Like,
Time to go.
this is going to be it. I was trying to get my issue with my apartment taken care of because I needed somebody to take over my lease. I think I still had like another 6 months on it. But I was going to the gym. We had just had an apartment gym. I didn't have the money for an actual membership at the time.
Okay.
But I was in there every single day. I mean, I was there probably later than I should have been. I kept some of the office crew late because I had to do some sit-ups. I had to get a little more cardio, do that one last set.
Gotcha.
I was feeling really good. And then that day that I left for Tampa, I actually had grown closer to a few friends, like the last month that I was there.
Okay.
My buddy Andrew, Rodney, and Sam. I mean, they're all back in Tampa still, the Tampa area. I miss them all to death. They're real good guys, but I tell them too, like if it wasn't for y'all, I definitely would have gone crazy out there.
I understood. But you get to Louisville, and we're here now, and then this is where the work really begins. Because let's be honest, I've never met Matt. Matt, I know you follow the show. Thank you so much. Saying that, his beginner's course isn't easy.
No,
Let's be honest.
Oh my God,
it has
no,
been
it's
to
not.
break you. So let's go into the actual training. You get to here to Louisville, and now it's time to start training. So I've heard so many stories about the beginner's class. I'm sure you've got some stories about breaking it.
Oh man. Okay, well, I guess to start on the first day, it was so rough for me. I was working 2 jobs and I was only sleeping like 3 hours at a time, so keep that in mind. But the first day we showed up, I was extremely out of shape. I threw up twice.
Oh, wow.
Just from like the cardio, the running the ropes, all that. And then I threw up twice. I went home and I literally passed out. Like I tried drinking a Gatorade, but like that didn't even settle well.
Oh,
It was like,
jeez.
I think part of the issue was I made the mistake of drinking a Red Bull before getting in the ring, and I didn't have any breakfast. So all that running, then all the cardio, and it was like,
Gotcha.
I joke about it with Matt now. That's probably my favorite, because when I went home that night, I'm like on my bed about to pass out. It's like, what the hell did I get myself into?
Like I said, I've heard that story so many times now when it comes to that particular school, and I always say there's so many great schools out there right now, but at the time, like I said, you call it the Harvard of professional wrestling. You can't speak highly enough of what Matt and Rip actually do there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
their track record speaks for itself. So, okay, now you're in training. Where does training lead to refereeing? Because I'm sure it wasn't the first thing on your mind when you're
No.
starting training. So where does refereeing actually start to come in at this point?
Oh man, I had just finished the beginner's class, which was an achievement in itself. Like, there were some rough patches, but I got through it, and I had my showcase match against Dapper Dan. Did not go at all the way I hoped it would. I went back and I watched the tape, I think a couple weeks ago. I didn't really do a whole lot. Dan really helped me out tremendously. But the crowd just did not like me. They booed me. And I was supposed to be the baby face.
Babyface.
Then I'm getting beat up, and the crowd's cheering for it. I just don't get, like, what the hell. I remember at one point I'm in the corner. Dan's got his foot right on my throat. I literally had to, like, move it to be able to breathe again.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I was like, okay, well, okay, it's just a bad night. I still had fun out there.
Oh, yeah.
In front of a live crowd. The Battle Royal was great. And then I went out to celebrate with some friends afterward. I mean, I'll never forget that night, nor how nervous I was. And if you talk to Matt, if you ever meet him, he'll tell you the same thing. A few weeks go by after the showcase, and Ashcraft comes up to me. Pretty much says, we need some referees. You look like a guy that can maybe use a little bit more ring time. It'll help you become a better wrestler. Do you want to do it? I thought about it, and I was like, okay. I wasn't excited about the idea, but I couldn't really argue, like, more ring time, getting a chance to work with other guys, the guys that were main eventing shows, picking their brains, learning as much as I can. I went out, I bought the shirt, I showed up on a Wednesday, I think, and they're like, okay, you're going to be doing some dark matches. I got to the ring, awkward, because I really don't know very many of the fans still. I got to the ring and they introduced me. Ladies and gentlemen, your new referee, AJ. And I actually got cheered for.
There you
And
go.
I'm like, I get booed as a wrestler, but I get cheered as a ref. It's like, what the hell is this?
I laugh only because I know the OVW fans, and boy, let me tell you, different world out there. What they like and what they don't like, and like I said, being a market, being a fan, it's funny because they'll put someone out there like, oh, the fans are going to hate them. And then the fans start cheering from them. And then in the back, they're going to be throwing up their hands and going, well, what the hell this time? Because I've seen it physically happen where they're like, this guy's supposed to be a bad guy and they're cheering him. Oh my God, what are we going to do with booking? So I've seen it before.
It was really awkward, but it was like, okay, whatever. And then I rep the first match. I don't remember who his opponent was, but the one that was also working was Melvin Maximus.
Okay.
I got in his way, I don't know how many times that match, but after the show I was like, I'm sorry man, that was the first match I'd ever repped. There's a lot more to it than it looks, and I asked all the new referees that too. I asked Bandy and I asked Jesse. I'm like, there's so much more to repping than just counting the 1, 2, 3, huh? They both agreed with me.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. And I heard this response. You get past that first thing, and then there becomes a moment where, how do you take this seriously? But there was this quote that I heard that was, you're not going to body slam Batista to win the heavyweight championship, but you could count to 3.
Yeah, that was Josh Ashcraft.
That was Josh Ashcraft. Wow. Obviously a Talk of the Business alumni. So when do you take that to heart and you go, okay, there's something to this?
I was stubborn about it for a long time. It's like, I'm just going to ref temporarily. Eventually I'll put my gear back on. I'll be a wrestler like I set out to be. I don't really know if I had a specific time, but I was talking to Sharpie a lot too, and I saw how well he seemed to be doing with his career. He was repping all over the world. He spent some time down in NXT. He'd been on WWE TV a few times, I think, and...
Something about a bunny. I don't want to say it. Adam Rose.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. I know you're watching this one particularly, Sharpie, so I had to rib you just a little bit, but go ahead.
I guess after a few months of doing it, and then it was like, okay, maybe this is my place after all. I had a car accident back in November, I think it was 2014. I was leaving the gym, and I was at an intersection. I happened to glance down at my phone and check the time. I thought it was like an explosion or something. The whole car just, and it moved forward enough for my car to hit the car in front of me. So I went a few weeks without the car, and I was riding with Joe Wheeler a lot to different shows.
Famous referee for WWE.
Exactly. He's a real good dude. I can't say enough good things about him either. I like to pick his brain whenever I can.
I really distinguished vet when it comes to refereeing.
Yeah, he's forgotten more about the business than a lot of us.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you got that right.
I guess after that car wreck, I just started thinking about everything, and it's like, well, I could either stay local because, yeah, Ashcraft was probably just trying to talk me into being a ref at the time, but like I thought about it long term, and it's like, well, I'm really not cut out or built like I'm gonna be body slamming Batista anyway, and it really is a big guy business. But would I be happier wrestling locally and still working a day job, or would I be happier traveling the world, wearing my stripes and getting paid to be a part of the WWE and hopefully big wrestling shows? It's like, well, that's really a no-brainer.
Gotcha.
So I've seen some guys that come in and they're asked to ref, and I kind of see the nervousness in their eyes. I'm like, well, I was in your shoes at one point, but at this, like after a while, I just started to think, well, whatever gets me a WWE job, it's all making a living in the business anyway. Like if you're counting the 1, 2, 3, or if you're wrestling, but if you're making a living doing something you love, I mean, what's wrong with refereeing? Being part of it all.
And there's not, and that's actually something we'll go into when we get to part 2. Fans, I know this is just part 1. We've taken you to this story, and we've gotten to Louisville, and now you're refereeing at OVW. Part 2 coming up next. We're going to answer your questions, which we had a ton of questions. We're going to talk about the art form of actually reffing in today's business and a bunch of other stuff. So I know you enjoyed part 1. AJ, I had a blast. Part 2 coming up next. And as only I can say, for the last time, obviously this is the last show, deuces.